Welcome to the Getting to the Root of It podcast, where our mission is to unearth the power and potential of the CBD hemp wellness industry. Grab a seat as we root out the myths from the marketing and discover the science-backed benefits of this popular plant medicine. Hosts Bob Finigan and Sarah Nilsson shoot it to you straight to help you make educated choices regarding hemp-based wellness.
Hello, and welcome to Getting to the Root of It with Sarah and Bob. I am super excited today. We're doing things a little different. I get to interview Bob about some really cool stuff that he is, in my opinion, an expert on. For those of you who don't know, Bob Finigan, my handsome co-host, is also very experienced with decades of experience in marketing, brand strategy, consumer experience in all sorts of products, including those in the health and wellness space. So I'm really excited to just kind of talk to you a little bit about the landscape of what the consumers are dealing with right now, how things have changed, and sort of maybe your opinion on what direction things are going. So before we get to all that, how are you?
Doing great, doing wonderful. Family is good. Life is good. And staying busy. So excited to be here.
Yes, well, I'm excited too. We got to flip the tables a little bit today. I've been waiting for this one, Bob.
I'm a little nervous. I got
Yeah, we got to. I'll go easy on you. We get to talk about one of the things that I'm super passionate about, which is shopping. Although you might not call it shopping, more of the consumer experience, buying habits, all things involved with the movement of goods and services. And, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I think it's so interesting and kind of a good place to start unpacking this is, you and I are both about the same age, born in the mid 70s.
28. Yep.
Is it okay if I say that?
28.
And I remember, growing up, going to the grocery store, going to the mall, going to a movie. Those were like outings. Like that was an experience. It was an event. It was something that you planned for, you looked forward to, and, completely different experience than what's happening today. But tell me about you. What do you remember about, just kind of as you grew up, your relationship with how you, consumed goods?
Oh my gosh. I mean, think about how much has changed in just a very short amount of time. I mean, 10, 15 years, which in the grand scheme of things is not a long time. But as a kid, we used to go to a place, and for those of you who are a little younger, you may not know what this is, but we used to go to a place called the mall. And there were these large structures that had lots of stores in there, and they had food courts, and we used to go there to hang out. Like, I mean, it was big time if you got to go to the mall.
Orange Julius, baby.
Yeah. So just to borrow pizza and some Orange Julius. My dad loved that. By the way, it's funny you mentioned that. So we would go to the mall. My grandparents used to go to the mall, and they used to walk around, like literally just walk around the mall. That was how they got their exercise. So it was a place of social gathering, and where you went. It was kind of an event on a Friday night or on a Saturday night.
And sometimes you'd go to the mall and you didn't even buy anything. Like you didn't even it was more of the form of entertainment. Like
that's right.
There was a term called window shopping. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but it used to be just like, hey, let's all go to the mall, or I'm going to the mall, kind of it was a recreational activity, right?
Yeah, there was a book that my career was focused in building customer experience for retailers. A lot of retailers that were mall-based retailers, brands that you probably shopped at. A lot of different brands, but I like to use the brand Aeropostale as an example. They were a mall-based brand. When I had started working with them, which was in the beginning of this kind of decline of retail, that year, I'm trying to timestamp it, but they sold I believe, almost 52 million logoed Aeropostale A87 T-shirts to teenage girls. I mean,
Wow.
you think about how powerful that infrastructure was, and just how quickly it's changed, how
Mm-hmm.
quickly it's declined, and how brands have had to adopt and change. And that experience, that the book was called the Experience Economy.
Mm-hmm.
These two guys named Pine and Gilmore, and what they talked about was retail theater, and that in that experience economy, that businesses and brands have to create memorable experiences and encounters. Thus, the experience was the product.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happened is we've kind of progressed to what they're now deeming as the transformation economy, where customers are seeking more than just a mere experience, although that experiences are really important. Um, Consumers, particularly younger consumers, are seeking authenticity and meaning. Some call it, the soul of what a business and brand is all about, and they want to connect on a deeper level. So, in a sense, there's still truth and still desire to have community and have fun and have locations where we can have social experiences with friends and with families. But the way that we've done it with the introduction of technology and digital and the shift to e-commerce has really just disrupted the whole thing. So the future of retail is incredibly exciting, but incredibly different.
Mm-hmm. And I think as I was listening to you talk, I was thinking, like, I remember going to the mall with my friends, and it was like, let's all buy the same outfit, or let's plan our outfits for the next party, or
Yeah.
that was like a thing, and you got validation, like, oh, that looks good on you, or no, or let's be twins, that kind of thing. So I have a theory, and I want to throw this out. You kind of tell me if you think I'm on the right track. As we've been talking about, back when we were growing up, and especially throughout the 80s and, probably early 90s, how much of a social event it was to go to the mall, and not just the mall, to the movies, to, these kind of open area public type spaces. And that was where you got your social interaction, where you got validation from your people about, where you built your self-esteem, or, I suppose it had a negative effect sometimes too, where you met people from other schools, or from, where you met people, where you got a job, right? Where you learned your customer service, all of these things, very, very social. And now, with social media and all of that, people are getting that social fix other places, and going to the mall becomes more of a chore, an inconvenience, or something they do when they have to do, because they have a new channel to get that sort of social validation, social interaction. Do you think that the increase of social media plays into sort of less of the demand or the need for that social experience that you would find at the mall or the movies or something like that?
Well, that's quite a theory. I I guess how I would think about it is, you're absolutely right. That social media has replaced a lot of that need, for that social interaction. The one we had, those experiences where we went to the mall and we got our orange Julius and we hung out and we spent time, because we can do that on demand all day long. In fact, we do that, even my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that there's and this has been happening, literally over the last 10 years, and it'll be interesting to watch. But social commerce, by far, has the potential to grow faster than overall e-commerce, because socially driven commerce is kind of embedded into our human dynamic. So for me, it'll be interesting to see how brands can adopt in this world, because the barrier to entry for things that we used to do is really low. I mean, technology has really enabled us to deliver packages and groceries right to our door. We can quickly get on Instagram and DM our friends. We can throw a snap, a TikTok video in 10 seconds. Everybody's a content creator. And so we can stay in touch with people's lives very, very quickly, easily. But I think there's a place for kind of human interaction. I think that crave for authenticity and meaning in our lives is starting to surface. So, looking forward then in the next 10 years, how technology can change and adapt to really helping the human dynamic, which I think is a part of our lives that's missing in many cases.
So it makes me think of like just the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. And we've sort of created this unrealistic expectation from retailers or, companies that are selling goods and services. For example, like instant gratification is just off the charts, right? If I want something, the first thing I do is go to Amazon and I want it the next day. And if it shows me that it's not delivered till next Monday, I literally pause, like, wait, what? It's supposed to be here by tomorrow if I order in the next 2 hours. And Bob, I could go down to the Target that's 10 minutes away and buy it and get it in 10 minutes. But I would rather sit at my computer, not have to put shoes on, not have to find a parking spot and get it. So, but it's created this sort of monster, right? Because if we're not getting, and it filters out into other areas of my life, my groceries, my stuff, my people. If I want to call someone and they don't answer, or if I text someone and they don't text me back in 3 minutes, I'm like, what? Where are you? Did you die?
Why is this happening? I can't understand. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for those 3 dots.
But it's true. I mean, think about all the areas of our lives where we used to send a letter in the mail. We used to leave a message on a. I mean, it boggles my mind, and I think about this all the time. And this is a little bit, but it blends to this. Is when we used to have a landline, and again, to our younger listeners, no idea what we're talking about, but you had to like physically be home to get a call, and if you were gone, somebody was not getting a hold of you. That's just what it was. And you didn't know where they were when they, like, think about it, Bob. Like nowadays, can you imagine going on vacation to wherever? You're gone for 5 days with no phone?
No, not at all. I mean, it and sometimes I crave those days when I could literally not have a phone because I dreaded it. I mean, I remember my first email account. I mean, this sounds like a history lesson, but a phone like tied to a wall. I mean, who remembers that?
Right.
I mean, I remember my first answering machine, right? So connectivity has really, just completely changed our lives. I was in sports when I was a kid, and I used to bike to school or get rides with friends, and I would get to, baseball practice or basketball practice or whatever sport I was playing at the time. And I would call my parents for a ride home. And what I used to do is call collect. And when the operator, it was a recording, said, please say your name. And I would say, Mom, it's Bob. I'm at the school. It's 5:30 and I need to go ride home. And they would say, you have a collect call from Bob. And that's how we communicated. Yeah, I was hacking.
Yes.
I was hacking the phone company.
You were hacking before it was a thing. Yeah.
Really a pioneer.
My dad used to say, don't leave the house without a quarter. No, that's not even a thing.
I didn't have quarters.
But you know what? It's so true. Like how it just in our lifetime. Well, first of all, like I will say that when I was younger, we had, wait for it, a party line, which was where multiple people shared the same phone line. So you had to wait for your neighbor to get off the phone, or you could listen into their conversation. But just in our lifetime, how we've gone from that to nobody leaves the house without being connected. And we're uncomfortable if we can't get a hold of someone like instantaneously. And that parlays into, now I want my stuff instantaneously. I want feedback. I mean, what is all that social media about? It's about instant feedback. Likes, how many likes did I get? How many comments did I get? Check for more likes. Like it's that instant feedback and connection and like, I am important. I am here. Who's, see me. It's very interesting, I think, like not only from the consumer perspective but also like the psychological perspective of kind of who we've become as a society and how retailers have to constantly pivot to adapt to that and continue to attract market share.
Yeah, I mean, convenience has definitely ruled the roost, right? I mean, furthering those history lessons, we used to go to a store to pick out movies. So you had to go to a store and find them. It was called Blockbuster, and they were on every corner.
Yeah, I worked there.
Yeah, and then every one of your family members would fight over the one movie that had the VHS tape or the DVD, whatever your era was. And then this new thing came out called Netflix, and everyone was like, I'm not so sure I'm going to really like put my credit card onto a website or subscribe to content. My Wi-Fi doesn't work that well. And within a few years, guess what happened? There's no more Blockbuster. And we talk about models like Uber and Airbnb, like the sharing economy. It was funny we were talking before the show, and you were talking about. I mean, just remember, like, do you think you would have ever put your credit card online? That took some time. Especially for the older generation. But do you think you would ever call on an app to some dude to pick you up in his Toyota Camry?
No, no. As a matter of fact, we got told by our parents, never do that. Right?
I think I was trained not to jump in a Toyota Camry with a dude.
No van.
I think that was actually a rule.
Yes.
Don't jump into Toyota Camrys with dudes.
Or would you ever let strangers rent your house for the weekend?
Yeah, strangers come over to your house, and it's just so funny. But that's where we are. And, I think really what it sets up is convenience and friction in that shopping experience, right? So there's a need for social commerce. There's a need for connectivity. There's a need for immediate gratification. There's also a need for personalization. And 75% of buyers prefer to buy from a brand that actually personalizes that purchase experience. And so customer experience and personalization are a big trend. This connectivity combined with convenience and less friction in that buying process is really where the intersection, I think, is going to come. I mean, you're looking at a retail sales, both physical in store and online digital e-commerce of over 6 trillion. But there's an emerging category with these sharing economy and this transformation economy that some people are calling the gig economy, and having a side hustle as a output of the sharing economy, where everybody kind of has that today, right? And so, you look at where the opportunity lies. I think it's in a hybrid. I mean, I really think that we will see more physical stores open, but they're going to be different. They're going to be almost flagships where you can go sample and find things, because consumers, I think the data says 62% of consumers still want to see, try, touch, feel products. And that says to me as a marketer, it's because they don't trust the brands. That while technology has afforded us convenience and portability and all of those innovations, will continue to push more and more. I want to order my groceries online, and the pandemic proved that I'll probably never go back to a grocery store. But at the end of the day, people want to buy from brands they trust with authenticity and meaning, removing the friction in that process. And I think the hybrid is really going to be an amazing opportunity for brands that can figure that out.
I agree. I was thinking about kind of along the lines of what you're saying, this sort of perfect storm of connection and convenience. And I feel like from what I've read and some of the, blogs and things that I've looked at, especially that millennial generation, right? That really wants to connect to the brand emotionally and psychologically, and feel like there's some sort of purpose. Like the brands, like think about Tom's, right? Give back and something that they can feel good about supporting, something that they feel sort of a loyalty to or a connection to on some, whether it's the company's story or the people at the company or the mission of the company, but something bigger than just, I need a new pair of shoes, for example, or,
Right.
and then they creating these like lifelong consumers, like real customers versus just somebody who picked up one of their products. And then they share it, right? They're brand ambassadors, or they're influencers, or they're really like calling the troops to go support this particular, company. And I think that, as you're saying, companies that do it right, that create that sort of sense of purpose that's embedded in the customer experience, and there's a connection to that, and it's convenient, whether it's the shipping, easy to get, easy to return, covers a lot of bases of consumer needs or whatever. But I feel like you're right, that is the sweet spot. Do you see that in your research?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the softer side of building brands today has really changed. Brands used to be one-way messages where, we as marketers, in all of our glory and genius, who controlled all of the channels. We call it an omni-channel shopping experience today for a reason, because there are as many ways we get and receive information. In fact, we receive information from everywhere, and everybody today has ADD. We can't focus on one thing, right? So how you stand out is really, really challenging, because it's a two-way conversation. You don't own the brand today. You set the tone of the brand, and that lives online, right? It's the engagement between your customers and you, which call fans or fanatics, but that social dynamic is there. So brands have to find ways to innovate. They have to find ways to remove that friction in the selling process. They have to be more convenient. They have to be more personalized. They have to be more social, and they have to be where you're going, which is more socially conscious, right? So cause branding and purpose branding is a very, very important part of the future dynamic, because consumers, particularly the younger consumers, you mentioned millennials, it really spans across generation, actually, but the millennials are surely driving it. Again, going back to that authenticity and trust, but they want to buy from brands that actually make a difference, that they can relate to, that are
Mm-hmm.
proving, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. There's some examples. Gosh, think off at the top of my head. Dove,
Mm-hmm.
a bar soap, wonderful brand. We've probably all used it in our lives. But when they were really one of the first brands, I think Tom's, giving a pair of shoes for every purchase of one for one, that model is absolutely part of the core to their growth. But Dove and their real beauty pledge, I think, was very, very powerful for a brand to take that leap, focusing on real women, never using models in their campaigns, portraying women in real life, building um, confidence and self-esteem in girls, where 8 out of 10 girls today will opt out of life activities because social media has told them that they shouldn't feel good about the way they look, right? Social
Mm-hmm.
media has had the worst impact on self-esteem and confidence, and we need to educate our youth about that. So cause brands and purpose brands are really core to this model shift.
And also that lends itself right to inclusion and social issues and things where brands are sort of not afraid to have a voice or further the conversation around things that are important to our society right now. And obviously being inclusive is at the top of that list, and making everyone feel
Right.
valued and important. And some brands do it really well, like you're saying with the Dove, just sort of taking a stab at the shaming and some of the things that our youth is going through, and saying, hey, you're beautiful just the way you are. And it's a really big step, because it's so contrast to what we've seen for the last 20 years, right? And I think you hit the nail on the head, that social media has really been detrimental to what is going on with our youth as far as their self-esteem issues, and then they grow up and it manifests into so many other things.
Uh,
So
I think it was Walt Disney that said, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything.
mhm,
So, really aligning your cause or your purpose to your core values,
mhm,
but also making sure that you can follow through. And taking a stance sometimes comes with risk for a
mhm,
brand. We live in a very sensitive time. So messages can be heard differently. So it's there's some risk in that. But I remember the campaign. It was called "Like a Girl," and we've probably all heard the phrase "like a girl," like you throw like a girl. I think it's
mhm,
probably something I've said in my life, maybe regretfully. But the campaign was about being unstoppable and embracing. Yeah, I throw like a girl, and I'm a what a
mhm,
BA,
mhm, mhm,
and I think that's super super exciting for brands to take a leap, to stand for what they believe in, and to tie it to their core values. And as it relates to shopping and buying and how commerce will be created, again, I think there's a lot of really unique opportunity in this social selling category,
mhm.
with brands who get it right.
So let's talk about that here. So social selling, network marketing, that side of it, right? You know, Throughout history, you can see companies that did it right, stood the test of time, grew, huge international, you know, um, companies with massive longevity, and companies that didn't do it right, fell by the wayside, out of compliance, or just sort of got a bad rap one way or another. And there's companies in this space using this channel that are launching literally daily. Most of them we'll never hear about, right? But for the ones that are getting traction right now in this environment, the companies that are coming to market and doing things right, what would you say are, like, the couple of things, like, if let me put it to you this way, Bob. If you're talking to me, you're giving me advice knowing what you know, and I said, hey, I'm launching a social selling business, a network marketing business right now. I've got a great product line. What kind of advice would you give me as far as what you think consumers are looking for to be able to connect with me, and I have a fighting chance in this channel?
Well, first of all, I would try to dissuade you. I'm just kidding. uh, I think we've covered, many of the core elements that set up this potential. You talk about the direct selling category. I've been in that category, in and around it, for probably 10 years. So a larger part of my career spent in physical retail, omni-channel, creating and shaping experiences for customers, which we used to call couch to cash wrap. And I saw this world of retail changing. We worked with Aeropostale, that brand that I mentioned, to build virtual fitting rooms where you could walk in and your phone would know who you are. It would
Ooh.
interact with a screen on the wall. It would pull up your preferences. It would dim the lighting to your mood, right? Sometimes you're trying on those outfits, particularly as a teenage girl, which I'm very familiar with, and the lighting isn't just right,
Hmm.
and it makes you feel really bad. So, setting your music preferences, you could hail the concierge, otherwise known as the annoying store associate, to get you that other size, potentially that other color. So we were trying all of these things. We actually launched all of those things, but where it falls short is that personal dynamic, that peer-to-peer selling, in direct sales was a new category for me. I didn't realize the power. I realized the power of online selling. I realized the power of transformational retail experiences, but I didn't understand the power of peer to peer because of the dynamic that we just described. It's about building authenticity. It's about being transparent. What's on the label is really in the bottle. It's about being authentic and buying from brands, people you trust, right?
Hmm.
When you go and you look for a hotel, or you look for a, you know, a pair of shoes or whatever your purchase is, what's the first thing you do? You probably go look and read the reviews. You want to know what people are saying about it, not what the marketing guy says about it. And you're going to buy from the things that rate well, the things that you can trust, or the thing that your friend referred you to. And so that dynamic, I think, is absolutely setting up a powerhouse opportunity in the social commerce world. And then, we also talked about entrepreneurialism, and the pandemic has really accelerated our desire to change the way that we're working. We used to go to work and come home. Now many of us are they say we're getting to work at home. I say we're living at work in many ways, but the way that we want to work, we've kind of rethought our values. We're spending more time with family. We know that spending time in the car isn't always creating happiness. So I think there's such a huge opportunity for brands that are authentic, that are transparent, that are trustworthy, that can shape a great experience, that have a product that's proven, and really embraces that entrepreneurial spirit that's inside of all of us, and can do it well.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially when it comes to the entrepreneurial side of things, that especially with the pandemic and everything, that the economy, just the fluctuating and everything that goes on politically and otherwise, it's people's vulnerabilities have been exposed, right? So now, instead of, every once in a while you ran into someone that had some sort of a side hustle, now I think the stats are up to like 70% of households have some kind of alternate source of income, whether it's a VRBO or someone's driving Uber Eats or someone has a, network marketing business, but something to bring in extra income. Because as we saw last year, it's you're vulnerable to outside influences that we have no control over. And it's becoming more of the norm, right? So if you're a company in that space and you have a product that people actually want, another key, right? And that you have a mission attached to it, or something that people can connect to. And then you're right, it's all about, being referred by a friend. Like when I have a friend that says, "Oh my goodness, Sarah, you have got to use this mascara. Like, you're going to love this." I don't really need to do any research or read reviews, because my friend who I trust,
That's right,
already did the work for me, already says, "I know Sarah would like this," or "I know you'd love this movie," or "You've got to try this restaurant." And so, wow, if you can capitalize on that aspect of, our humanity or our nature, like, then, it seems like a sweet spot.
I mean, I bet people are running out and running online trying to find Orange Julius right now.
Yes,
because of this podcast. I'm telling you,
they are.
I think we're like literally driving the stock price up. I don't even know if the brand exists anymore.
I was going to say, I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But
maybe we should bring it back.
I bet we could find an Orange Julius T-shirt on like eBay or something. We really tried. I did. True story. This will take you back. I did just recently purchase a T-shirt that I saw on Instagram, which, by the way, Instagram is like my mall now, because you're scrolling through looking at your friends' TikToks, and then everything is, "Ooh, I need those earrings," or, "Oh gosh, there's
Sarah, this is a public podcast, so just I just wanted to
interject
that.
I bought a T-shirt off of Instagram that was a peachy. Like, the whole shirt looks like one big peachy with armholes. And I only bought it because I was nostalgic, right? Because I don't even know if they make peachies anymore, and half our listeners probably don't know what a peachy is. But now they're going to Google it and see. But wasn't that like if you saw a peachy, what do you automatically think of?
Well, actually, where my head went back was I was thinking my own, like, the bum equipment, like whatever.
Bum equipment. Some hypercolor acid wash Z Caparicis.
Yeah. Give me some Z Caparicis. Oh man, that was crushing that.
Yes, but trapper keepers, the things that were nostalgic to our childhood, and a peachy, for those who don't know, is a folder that we used in high school. Everybody, or junior, whatever, everybody used it. And there was a shirt with just the that looked like a peachy, just the design of a peachy. And it's the horrible orangey mustard brownish color. It's not cute, but I bought it because it was nostalgic. So what that tells me is, people do like that connection, things that make them feel good or bring them to a memory or make them feel like they're helping or supporting someone. And so, we definitely still have lots of opportunities to do that. If brands do it right, they can capitalize on all of that and really thrive in this sort of ever-changing environment we're in.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've painted the opportunity. I think the opportunity gets exponentially better when you look at the problems. And the problem in the direct selling category is really all of the things that we just described. How many brands are out there, marketing companies that have a wonder drug or a wonder product or a wonder juice with a, magic potion that's going to do something that has lots of claims around it that are all false, with a bunch of people who are really not interested in helping people or the product. They're interested in kind of spinning up falsehood around, not even entrepreneurialism. It's a greed and ego game. And when you look at the data, I mean, the category is massive. I mean, I think it's a $170-180 billion global industry. I mean, it's big. I mean, it's bigger than Hollywood and NFL combined, I think, or bigger. But only 5% of the world is involved, data specifically in the US, but globally, the trend kind of follows. 5% of the world is involved in direct sales. So that 95% of us think, in many cases, those people are pretty weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're having a meeting and we're not sure, and it's cultish and all the bad words.
They're so happy all the time.
Yeah, I don't know why these people are so happy. But it comes from a really authentic and cool place, right? So think back to the 50s and 60s, like this category emerged where it was just door to door. It was like peer to peer. It was person to person, and there's charm in that. There's nostalgia in that, as you mentioned, and I think it's incredible. But what happened is all this hype and hyperbole and greed and ego gets in the way, which is completely the opposite of everything we've just talked about for the last 28 minutes.
Right.
The authenticity and transparency. And I think inside of that, creating an authentic, business opportunity with products that can be trusted, that actually help people, and doing it in a really cool and innovative way with great experiences is the brands that can do that will be the brands of the future. These will be brands that last and I promise you stand the test of time.
I agree. And I wish we had more time because I could really talk about this all day. I sort of feel like I'm living out some kind of dream job right now where I get to talk about shopping. But we are out of time, and perhaps we can revisit this again down the road in future podcasts. But thank you, Bob, for playing guest for me today and taking off your
you went easy on me.
Hat. Yeah, I did. Because I want you to do it again. So I figured I better, get you earn your trust.
Next time I need tears. Like
yeah, I'm gonna Barbara Walters
style. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for all that information. I think it's a fascinating topic, and something that we can definitely revisit, and it's ever changing. So all right, thanks for listening. Hope you guys found value in that as well, and we look forward to our next session with you. Don't forget to download us and subscribe at Getting to the Root of It on Apple, Spotify, or all places that you pick up your podcast. Share with a friend, and let us know what you think. Everybody enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Getting to the Root of It. If you enjoyed today's show, visit gettingtotherootpodcast.com to access information about our guests and to sign up for our newsletter. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.